Welcome to Go Fact Yourself, the Top 10 Lists podcast.
Great to be here.
Get ready, because on this top 10 journey, we are plunging into the wonderfully weird world of laws.
Oh, yeah.
Laws that might just make you question, well, everything you thought you knew about legal systems.
Definitely. You find some real gems out there.
You, our listeners, you often tell us you're looking for those surprising aha moments, right? And our top research into some truly unbelievable legislation, both old and shockingly current, promises to deliver exactly that.
I think it will. Some of these are genuinely bizarre.
Prepare yourself for the top 10 dumbest laws that are somehow still real and enforced.
It's crazy. Yep.
Seriously, some of these will have you saying, WTF, no way that's real.
It's fascinating, isn't it? We think of laws as these pillars of order, these carefully considered rules.
Right, structured, logical.
But when you start digging, you uncover these absolute oddities that really make you wonder what on earth was going through people's minds.
Totally. Before we embark on this top 10 journey, let's just think about the basic idea behind laws. Creating order, fairness in society.
The foundation.
Now, picture laws that seem to have completely missed that memo, like completely. We're talking about rules so incredibly specific, so seemingly disconnected from modern life, that they raise way more questions than they answer.
Definitely.
Our top research took us all over the globe, through history, the US, the UK, Singapore, Switzerland, even China.
A real mix.
So, are you ready to dive into this top 10 journey through the annals of legal oddities?
Absolutely. Let's kick things off. Where are we starting?
Okay, number 10. We're starting in the good old US of A, specifically Arizona.
Arizona, right.
Get this. It is against the law for donkeys to sleep in bathtubs after 7 p.m.
Wait, what? Donkeys? In bathtubs after 7?
Yep. A curfew for equine bath time.
You're not pulling my leg here, are you? That sounds made up.
Not at all. This isn't some urban legend. It's real, honest-to-goodness Arizona legislation.
Wow. Okay, there has to be a story behind that one.
Oh, there is. To really get this bizarre rule, we got to go back. Picture this. Kingman, Arizona, 1924.
Okay, 1924.
That dam breaks. Big flood.
Right. Chaos.
And in what must have been, I don't know, panic, or maybe just a strange attraction to porcelain,
Chuckles slightly. Okay.
a local rancher's donkey decides to take refuge in a bathtub.
In a bathtub during a flood.
Yes. But then the floodwaters swept the tub and the donkey away.
Oh my gosh, the image.
Oh.
A runaway bathtub with a confused donkey. That's almost funny, but also terrible.
Exactly. So the townsfolk, good people, they apparently rallied.
A rescue mission.
A lengthy, and I can only imagine, utterly chaotic rescue operation. Ropes, probably lots of shouting, a very stressed mayor.
I bet.
Now, you'd think the lesson learned would be maybe secure your livestock during floods.
Yeah, seems logical.
But no. The lawmakers' response, a specific ban on donkeys being in bathtubs after 7 p.m.
Just how that specific scenario.
Yeah.
After 7.
It makes you wonder about the shelf life of these laws, doesn't it? Like, once the crisis is over, why does this super specific, almost comical rule stick around?
That's a really good point. It sort of shows how laws can be these knee-jerk reactions to one single event.
Right.
And like you said, the legal system seems to have this inertia. It's easier to add a law than take one away, maybe.
Seems that way. And the time limit after 7 p.m. that just adds another layer of weirdness. Why 7?
Who knows? Maybe the donkey rescue went late into the evening.
Could be. And here's the kicker. This law, still technically on the books.
No way, still.
Yeah, local cops joke about it. Obviously, no one expects to see a donkey arrested for a late-night soak.
Right, you'd hope not.
But technically, that bathtub-loving burro could face charges if caught after hours.
Unbelievable. Okay, where are we off to for number 9?
We're crossing the Atlantic for number 9. London, UK.
Okay.
And this one tackles the ultimate inevitability. You cannot die in the Houses of Parliament.
Hold on. You can't die. Like, it's illegal to pass away inside Parliament. That sounds unenforceable.
Well, it's important to clarify, it's not a formal statute like the donkey law.
Oh.
It's more like a very, very strong tradition, almost a parliamentary custom that carries real weight.
A custom, not a written law.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why? What's the reasoning?
The supposed reason is pretty wild. The belief is that anyone who dies within the Palace of Westminster, that includes Parliament, is technically under the protection of the Crown.
Under royal protection.
Okay. And that, supposedly, would trigger all sorts of complicated, elaborate ceremonies, maybe even a state funeral.
A state funeral? Just for dying in that specific building?
Yeah.
Wow, that's grand. And maybe a bit much.
It definitely connects to that deep sense of history and symbolism in British institutions, you know?
Right. Parliament isn't just offices. It represents something much bigger.
Exactly. So the idea of death happening right there could be seen as disrupting that whole symbolic order.
Makes sense in a symbolic way, I guess.
Precisely. Now, back in 2007, it was confirmed this is more tradition than actual law you'd find in the books.
Right.
But there have been reports, sort of anecdotal, of staff being instructed to, let's say, relocate anyone who looks gravely ill.
Relocate them. You mean move them outside?
Just in case they decide to, expire during Prime Minister's questions or
Yes.
something.
We're literally trying to wheel people out before they stop breathing.
Apparently. So, not a criminal offense to die there, but definitely a potential logistical nightmare and ceremonial headache.
It's pretty absurd when you picture it. Someone being rushed out just to avoid a state funeral. Okay, where to next?
We're staying in the UK for number 8, and this one seems to just defy basic logic.
Oh.
It's illegal to be drunk in a pub.
You're kidding me, right? In a pub. The place literally designed for drinking alcohol.
I am not kidding. The very establishments whose primary purpose is selling and consuming booze, it's against the law to actually be drunk inside them.
Why? What's the law?
It's Section 12 of the Licensing Act, 1872. Yes, you heard that right, 1872.
Okay. 1872.
Wow. And it explicitly makes it illegal to be drunk on licensed premises. Pubs are definitely licensed premises.
Okay, 1872. So there must be some historical context. Victorian era, maybe concerns about public disorder, gin lane kind of stuff.
Exactly. That's the thinking. Late 19th century, lots of social change, big concerns about public drunkenness and disorder. This law was likely an attempt to regulate the rowdier side of drinking in public.
That makes more sense. Understanding the history is key for some of these weird ones. It shows the anxieties of the time.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you're not going to see cops breathalyzing people at the bar every Friday night.
You'd hope not.
But the law is still technically there. Police forces have even run campaigns reminding people about it. Devon and Cornwall police did one in 2018.
Really? Reminding people not to get drunk in pubs?
Yep. And what's more, the pub landlords, the publicans, they actually have a legal duty to refuse service to anyone who seems intoxicated.
Ah, so that's part of it too. They have to enforce it in a way.
Right. So it creates this, completely bizarre paradox.
Yeah. You go to a pub, maybe planning to have a few pints. You might accidentally overdo it.
And boom. In the very act of being drunk in the place designed for it, you've technically broken an old law.
Wild. It's one of those laws everyone probably ignores, but it's still there. What does that say about laws that aren't really enforced? Are they just symbolic?
Good question. Are they a deterrent? A historical footnote. Okay, let's move on. Number 7.
Right.
We're heading to Singapore, famous for its cleanliness and order.
Ah, yes, Singapore. I have a feeling I know where this might be going.
You probably do. Their dedication to order extends to something many of us chew on without a second thought. Chewing gum.
A gum ban. Yep.
It is against the law to sell or import chewing gum there, with very few exceptions.
It's famous, but still pretty amazing when you think about it. A whole country banning gum. Since when?
Since 1992, selling or importing gum, unless it's specific medicinal gum, like nicotine gum, is illegal, and the fines can be huge, thousands of Singapore dollars.
Why, though? What was the big problem with gum?
Well, it actually came down to some sticky situations, literally.
Okay.
Vandals were apparently using chewed gum to jam the sensors on the doors of their subway trains, the MRT system.
Seriously? That would cause chaos.
Big time disruptions to their super efficient train system. So the government back then, under Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong, basically said, enough is enough.
Right.
They wanted that super clean, orderly public environment, and gum was messing it up. So a few vandals ruined it for everyone.
Wow. Talk about a zero-tolerance approach. That really shows Singapore's focus on public order and efficiency, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And the penalties are no joke. Smuggling or selling gum can get you fines up to some $100,000 or even 2 years in prison.
Prison for gum. That's intense.
There are exceptions, like you can get dental gum or nicotine gum from a pharmacy, usually need ID.
Right.
Tourists usually get a pass, but there have been cases of fines for people being careless. It's just fascinating how a seemingly minor annoyance led to such a tough law.
It really is. Okay, number 6. Where to now?
For number 6, we journey to China, specifically the region of Tibet.
Tibet, okay.
And we encounter a law that really steps into the spiritual realm. Tibetan Buddhist lamas must get government permission to reincarnate.
Permission to reincarnate from the government. That sounds incredibly strange, like something out of a dystopian novel.
It does, doesn't it? Back in 2007, China's State Religious Affairs Bureau issued this thing called Order Number 5.
Order Number 5.
And it basically says Tibetan Buddhist lamas have to apply to the government for permission before their reincarnation can be officially recognized.
Apply to reincarnate. What's the thinking behind that? Seems like massive overreach.
Well, it's deeply tangled up with China's efforts to control Tibetan Buddhism, and maybe most critically, to control the succession of the Dalai Lama.
Ah, the politics. Right.
The order says monasteries have to apply, give details about the supposed soul boy, the reincarnated Lama.
Yeah.
And any reincarnation that doesn't get the government's official stamp of approval, it's considered illegal, null and void.
So they're trying to control who the next Dalai Lama could be, essentially, by invalidating any candidate they don't approve of.
That seems to be the clear goal. Undermine the current Dalai Lama's authority, potentially install a successor who's more aligned with Beijing.
Wow. That really puts state control versus religious freedom right out there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How societies try to balance those. Or don't.
Exactly. And the Dalai Lama himself, he's been pretty vocal about how absurd this is. He's joked that Chinese officials seem to think they know more about reincarnation than Buddha.
You can see why he'd say that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a heavy one. Let's move to number 5. Something lighter? Maybe.
Hopefully. Number 5 takes us to Switzerland. A law concerning a very private act that can apparently become a public nuisance there. Flushing your toilet after 10 p.m.
Flushing your toilet after 10? Yeah. That could be illegal. Seriously.
And in some Swiss apartment buildings, yeah. Especially older ones where the walls might be a bit thin.
Okay.
Late-night flushing is considered noise pollution, a disturbance of the peace, and it can actually lead to fines.
Fines for flushing. Why? Are Swiss toilets particularly loud or something?
Laughs. I don't think so. It comes from Switzerland's famously strict tenant laws. They really value quiet and tranquility in shared living spaces.
The Swiss reputation for orderliness strikes again.
Exactly. In cities like Zurich, Basel, you'll often find rules like this written right into rental agreements.
In the lease. No flushing after 10.
Pretty much. The thinking is the sound of the flush can genuinely disturb neighbors trying to sleep. It's all about maintaining peace and quiet.
Swiss serenity, right down to the plumbing.
You got it. Some landlords apparently even give tenants little reminders about nighttime flushing etiquette.
Gentle reminders not to flush.
Wow. It's less common in newer, better insulated buildings, but the idea of a toilet curfew is still a pretty well-known, kind of amusing part of Swiss culture.
It definitely shows how cultural norms shape laws about things we wouldn't even think twice about. Okay, number 4.
Number 4 takes us to France, where they apparently felt the need to specifically ban something. Well, something you wouldn't expect to see often.
Okay, France. What did they ban?
It's illegal to walk pet lions on public sidewalks.
Pet lions on sidewalks. You have to wonder how many times that actually happened to need a law.
Right. The actual regulation mentions wild animals dangerous to people, but lions get a specific nod in that context.
So why lions? Was there a trend?
Apparently, yes. Parisian authorities back in the 1920s were dealing with a rise in people keeping exotic pets.
The Roaring Twenties. With actual roaring lions on the Champs-Élysées.
Maybe not quite, but it sounds like it was becoming a thing. And you can imagine the problems.
Yeah, definitely a public safety issue. It's amazing how specific trends lead to specific laws.
Totally. There were also some unfortunate incidents with circus animals escaping, which added fuel to the fire.
Oh, okay.
So Article R41131 of the French Environmental Code explicitly says not to walking dangerous wild animals in public.
R4131. Got it.
And apparently there are documented cases, people actually trying to walk their pet lions on leashes in Parisian suburbs.
You're kidding. They actually tried it.
Seems so. Even circuses have to transport their lions securely in vehicles, not just strolling down the boulevard.
Well, that seems sensible, at least.
Yeah.
It really shows how laws pop up in direct response to what people are actually doing, however weird. Okay, number 3.
Number 3, back to the U.S., Vermont this time.
Vermont, okay.
And this one feels like a real blast from the past, socially speaking.
Oh.
In Vermont, a married woman technically needs her husband's written permission to get dentures.
His permission for false teeth. That sounds unbelievably archaic, like 18th century archaic.
It really does. It's rooted in those old very patriarchal views where married women were seen as financially dependent.
Right. The husband controlled the finances.
Exactly. And back then, dentures were a big expense. So the idea was the man of the house had to authorize it. It's a stark reminder of how laws used to reflect and even enforce social inequalities.
It really highlights how much society has changed. And sometimes the laws lag way behind, don't they?
Absolutely. Now, Vermont historical societies, they confirm this law is technically still there.
It's still on the books.
Wow.
But they're very quick to say, thankfully, it is absolutely not enforced, not in any way.
Well, that's a relief.
Ah.
Any idea why it was even made in the first place, beyond the money?
There's some speculation it might have been about preventing, like, marital deception.
Deception.
What?
With teeth.
Yeah, the weird idea that a woman couldn't just show up with new teeth and maybe mislead her husband about her age or health or something.
This is bizarre.
Totally. But whatever the outdated reason, it's a perfect example of early American legislative absurdity. Makes you wonder what other dusty old laws are still hiding out there.
For sure. Okay, number 2. Getting close to the top.
Number 2 takes us down south to Quitman, Georgia.
Quitman, Georgia, right?
Where you might want to keep a very, very close eye on your chickens.
Chickens. Why?
Because it is illegal for chickens to cross the road there.
The riddle. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Yeah.
Is actually illegal in Quitman, basically. But this wasn't some philosophical joke by the town council?
The Quitman city ordinances were updated, I think around 2009, to specifically say poultry must be securely penned up.
Okay, penned up. Why? Were they causing problems?
Yes. It came about after several traffic incidents involving loose chickens wandering onto the roads and causing hazards.
Ah, so it's a traffic safety law, not an existential poultry crisis.
Exactly. Less about why the chicken crossed the road, more about stopping it before it causes a pileup.
That makes slightly more sense. Have people actually been fined?
Police reports show they have fines for allowing poultry to run at large.
Wow.
So if you've got free-range chickens in Quitman, technically you're breaking the law. Animal control apparently treats loose chickens as a public safety threat.
Keep your chickens fenced in Quitman, folks.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, the number 1 dumbest law that's somehow still real.
And finally, our number 1 spot takes us to Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore. Okay, what's the law?
It is illegal to pretend to be a psychic.
Pretend to be a psychic. So, no fortune-telling allowed.
Basically. Forget setting up your crystal ball and tarot cards in Baltimore. The law specifically targets persons falsely pretending to forecast future events.
Falsely pretending. So it's an anti-fraud thing.
Exactly. It's in the Baltimore Code, Section 4901, aimed at protecting vulnerable people from scammers making false promises about the future.
Has it actually been used? Have they arrested fortune tellers?
They have. Back in 2008, a fortune teller was arrested, faced fraud charges.
Wow.
They've apparently run sting operations targeting people claiming psychic powers, promising to find lost loves or predict lottery numbers, for a fee.
Right, preying on people's hopes.
Yeah. There was one big case in 2010. A psychic got fined $15,000.
15 grand? What for?
For defrauding a grieving widow, making false promises about contacting her dead husband.
Oh, that's awful. Okay, so it's really about preventing that kind of exploitation.
That's the clear intent. But it does raise interesting questions, doesn't it? Where's the line between belief, entertainment, and outright fraud?
It's a tricky line. Have actual psychics fought back, claiming free speech?
They have. Some argue it infringes on their freedom of speech or religion.
Makes sense.
But the courts have generally sided with the city, saying it's legitimate consumer protection. It's fascinating how the law tries to regulate something so intangible, so subjective, as predicting the future.
It really is. That's quite a top 10.
Before we wrap up our top 10 journey, we've got a quick fact blast zone. Some rapid-fire bonus weird laws from around the globe. Ready?
Let's do it. Fact blast away.
Okay. First up, Western Australia. Illegal to possess more than 50 kilograms of potatoes.
50 kilos. That's like over 100 pounds of potatoes. Why?
Something about old potato marketing regulations, believe it or not. A potato limit.
A spud cap. Okay, next.
Denmark. You must legally check under your car for children before starting it.
Well, that seems sensible, actually. Very safety conscious. Maybe a bit specific for a law, but good practice.
Definitely. Thailand. Stepping on money is a criminal offense.
Why? Oh, because the king's image is on it, right? Disrespect to the monarchy.
Exactly. Deeply cultural.
Got it. What else?
Milan, Italy. An old 19th century rule says you technically have to smile in public.
Smile? By law. How on earth would you enforce that? A frown, fine.
Imagine. Sounds like something out of a comedy sketch.
Totally. Last one.
Canada's national parks. Illegal to intentionally scare a child.
Intentionally scare a child. Well, it just seems like being a decent human being, but I guess they put it in law to be sure. No jump scares by the bears.
Exactly. Keep the parks peaceful for families.
Well, that was quite the tour, wasn't it? Some genuinely mind-boggling laws out there.
A real whirlwind. It's been fascinating digging into the history, the weird logic, or sometimes lack of logic behind these rules.
Definitely makes you think.
We really hope this top 10 journey into legal absurdity gave you plenty of those WTF and no way moments we aimed for.
I think it probably did.
It kind of makes you look at the laws governing us today a little differently, doesn't it?
It does. You see these relics, these oddities, and it gives you a strange glimpse into the past. Different priorities, different anxieties.
Yeah. Whether they're enforced or just gathering dust, they show the peculiarities of different times and places, protecting donkeys in tubs, regulating reincarnation. The legal world is full of surprises.
Absolutely.
We definitely encourage everyone listening to maybe dig into the history of these or look for weird laws in your own area. What were they really trying to solve?
Are there strange local ordinances still lurking? It makes you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows how laws aren't static, they evolve, or sometimes they just get forgotten but stay on the books.
Exactly. It's a dynamic thing, and sometimes it ends up being pretty comical over time.
For sure.
Well, thanks for joining us on this top 10 journey into the wonderfully weird side of law.
Been a pleasure.
Share this with anyone who needs a good laugh, or just a reminder that sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction.
It often is.
Until our next fact-finding adventure, keep those questions coming and always stay curious.
And maybe check out your car before you leave, just in case.